Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Billy D's podcast. And I chuckle. I've mentioned this before. It's come to my attention that I get imitated, saying I'm thrilled that you are here, and it's not just one or two podcasters. I've had couple people say, "Are you talking to me?" No, there's been a bunch of them. I am Billy D's, and as he often is, our guest co-host today is Jack Casey. What's going on, Jack?
Not much, man. How you doing? It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. Did you have a nice holiday weekend?
Yeah, I did some hiking. Went up to see my mom and my aunts and uncles, which two of whom I didn't know were going to be there, so that was a nice surprise. Picked up my dad's bike and took it into the shop today to get repaired and tuned up so I can start biking around in my, everlasting quest to be less fat.
So gotcha. I understand. Yes.
But yeah, just been out doing photography, like taking pictures of animals, flowers, and stuff, and just kind of enjoying the weather before it's 98 degrees outside.
Yeah, so. I don't mind that. I start dreading winter July 4th, so I have about another month of relaxation. Memorial Day weekend for me. My dad was on his deathbed. He didn't have much in the way of dying requests, but he did mention, make sure that the veterans put a flag on my grave on Memorial Day weekend. So
right.
I end up, and I just did a whole episode about Memorial Day weekend on the podcast. Anyone who's interested can check it out. But basically, that's my yearly ritual. And I go there and make sure his flag is on his grave. And obviously that meant a lot to him. And so I feel somewhat obligated, even though technically they're gone. I don't know what people believe, if they're aware, if they're not aware, but in honor of his memory anyway, I do go and check out, make sure the flag is on the grave.
Hey, man, it's a good ritual to have,
Yeah, it is. And of course my mom passed away. She's buried there too, so I get to visit her grave and kind of visit them both. My grandparents are buried there. So with that being said, our topic today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about how moving into June, your state may vary. I believe it's June 2nd here in Ohio. They're going to relax some of the pandemic COVID restrictions. And also, we're going to talk about the UFO phenomenon that seems to be heating up again. That was quiet for a lot of years. And recently, those are spiking again. Did you catch the 60 Minutes report about a couple of weeks ago? I'm not sure when it was. They had the Air Force pilots being interviewed and all that.
No, I did not. If you want to send me a link to that, please do, because I missed it. I've been kind of off the internet for the past month or so. Had a bunch of stuff going on, so I've been outside and not in front of my computer. But yeah, I would very much love to watch that.
All right. Well, for those that are watching the program, if you want to go Google that up, 60 Minutes did a report where they had some pilots who were basically saying, hey, these things are there. They're there very often, and we don't know what they are. Very interesting discussion. I'm going to give my opinion on that here in a little bit. We'll get to that. Let's start with the COVID. Briefly, how I know you got both your shots or just one shot? What's going on with you?
I'm waiting on getting my second shot. It'll be 5 weeks in the middle of the month, and then I'm dreading it. Oh God, the first one was not fun.
Really?
Yeah, I have a bad shoulder from a car accident years ago, where every now and then I dislocate it. I think there's like a tear or a scarring in the rotator cuff. It's my best guess.
Okay.
Well, when I went to go get it, I didn't schedule it or anything. I was just like at the laundromat, and then I figured I'll stop in Drug Mart and see if they have an extra dose. I don't really care which one it is.
Yeah.
So they had a dose of Moderna, and they were like, hey, I got one left if you want it. So I said, sure, and signed the paperwork, and wasn't paying attention to where she was going to shoot it. And she put it into my bad shoulder, which is my left shoulder. Didn't really think much of it at first because I didn't really feel the needle go in. Right. I really hate needles, man. Like I looked away and she shoots it. I'm like, all right, cool. And it wasn't so bad until about 3 hours later. I'm sitting at my desk and suddenly my arm it feels like somebody just hit me over and over again with a crescent wrench or a crescent wrench, you know.
I know what you're trying to say. Crescent wrench.
I can't talk today. So for almost 3 days, like I could not move my arm like more than this. Like I couldn't change my shirt. I couldn't shower. I couldn't do anything. Like it hurt so bad. Couldn't sleep.
Oh, man.
So I'm not looking forward to the second one because I hear that if you've had COVID before, which I strongly suspect I did back in February 2020, that the fever lasts for more than a day, so at least a couple days. So I don't know, I'm dreading it, but it does need to be done. I want to go to concerts again. I want to make my mom happy and all that, but
well, I was pretty lucky. The first shot had almost no effect on me. The second shot, I did get a little tired, like 48 hours later. I believe I got my shot on a Thursday. I did take a nap Saturday afternoon, but then I was fine aside from that. So I was pretty lucky. I believe I had the Pfizer. Just to let the audience know as well, we are live on multiple platforms tonight. We are live on YouTube, we are live on Twitter, and we're also sending a feed to LinkedIn. We cannot respond in real time to everyone who is maybe sending us a message or something like that. We'll try to monitor Twitter as best we can, and that's at Billy D's. So if you are on Twitter and you want to make a comment or something like that, at Billy D's, and at the top of my profile is the live feed, and Jack's Twitter is in that tweet as well. Of course, we will have this available later on all of the major platforms that carry us, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on down the line. The audio version of this will be available later this evening and, of course, throughout the week. All right, getting back to COVID. In Ohio, the way I understand it is that the masks especially if you've been vaccinated and you're outside, the mask restrictions are being pulled back. I believe it's the 2nd. It's coming up real soon here. And I would want to point out, first of all, that I have never understood how a mask became a controversy. I don't know. And what gets me, it's usually the people on the far right. And for those who may have never listened to me before, I do not have a political ideology. Okay, there's plenty of problems with the left, but it's usually the people on the right, and they're the people who are the most religious. They're the people that are all about Jesus and everything. But if you want to, ask somebody to wear a mask to quote unquote, just to make somebody feel better, they're not going to give up their rights just to make somebody feel better, which is, I'm sure, what Jesus would have said.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to wear a mask just to make you feel better. You can go to hell.
But you want me to put cloth on my face just so that you don't catch my diseases?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus bless you.
Yeah. So anyway, nothing says American badass like storming into a store without a mask on. And by the way, getting back to Memorial Day, my father gathered up a swim and organized a swim with people who were bleeding in the water, in shark-infested waters, to get those people to shore. That's being a badass. Walking into a store without a mask on is not. It is not. Okay. Regardless how you feel about the whole mask issue, I do not feel that it was that big of a sacrifice. And I would also want to point out that, there's a lot of people who have very fragile health. I have a friend who has diabetes. There's numerous people on chemotherapy, and coming in contact with anything is very frightening to them. And all of a sudden, having somebody in your face or all around you without masks on, running their mouth. We were in a restaurant here, my wife and I, about a week or two ago. And she doesn't have any health conditions, but all the people, all the talking, she wasn't used to that.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't too often get a little, like nervous, but she told me, I'm ready to leave, So it's an adjustment period. And I also want to say that for private business owners, if you own Joe's Pizza Shop or whatever, and you want to put a sign on your door that says no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service, that's your choice. It doesn't matter what the CDC says. It doesn't matter what the president of the United States says. It doesn't matter what any of that says. And instead of fighting these people, if they are afraid to, interact with people with masks on, show some sensitivity to that. This idea that it's a violation of my rights. I don't understand it, as a concern for your fellow man. If it makes somebody feel better, if that's the way you want to put it, that you put a mask on while you interact with them, it's not really asking that much. Your opinion about this? I know where you come from on a lot of this, but what's your take on this?
I live in Trump country, so already like starting about a week ago, nobody was wearing them again. It's very strange. I forgot people had openings in their noses and mouths.
Yeah.
So I've been looking around at that going, there's a piece of human anatomy I haven't seen in about a year. I'm going to still wear mine for a while because working in retail for as long as I did makes you realize how gross people are. And the thing is too, I mean, us wearing these masks for the past year, I mean, the flu is non-existent. I haven't gotten sick except for one little kid cold that I caught from my my buddy's kid when I was down in Columbus, which was I had for about a day and I was fine. So I mean, there was that kind of benefit to it as well. And also, like, I don't understand the whole my freedoms thing either. I mean, it's just as you have the freedom to say not wear a mask, sure, the business owner can say, well, then you're not coming in here. Yeah. And I will say one thing I'll miss is all the Twitter and like Reddit videos of people flipping out about not having to, or about having to wear the mask.
Yeah,
because those were some of the funniest videos I've seen in quite a while. But it's interesting just to watch society kind of slowly cobble itself back together. Like I'm not seeing as many people with like the political mass, it's like, well, if I have to wear this, I have to tell everybody what I feel non-verbally.
Oh God.
Which that was an interesting time working out in Brimfield for a while.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see stuff go back to normal. I'm kind of curious to see how many people in the coming months will still wear the mask around, because I'd say it's about 30% of the people around here still do, and we'll see how that goes. But
medical places and my day job, that's something that is an issue. Medical places, clinics, and so on and so forth, still are under the mask provision. And you know what? I have a suspicion. I don't know this to be true, but hospitals in particular, I have a feeling that's never going to go away.
No, and it shouldn't. I mean, hospitals already have a problem with patients passing stuff back and forth to each other. I mean, there's a thing way before COVID. I mean, you got like staph infections and flus and just other, flesh-eating bacteria bugs. And I mean, none of that'll be stopped by a mask, but there's a lot of airborne stuff that can.
Yeah. When my mom was ailing, I used to have to take her to get blood tests. And in the same waiting room, there was an area for people who were waiting to see the doctor. And I used to make my mom wear a mask because, she was late in her 80s. She was in a wheelchair, and there's all these people coughing and hacking. And this was before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how doctors and nurses in those environments manage to stay as healthy as they do. I'm sure their immune systems are as rock solid as you can get, but sooner or later, something's going to get through. So my guess is that this is going to become more the norm in medical situations.
A friend of mine just got his nursing license this past year. I can't remember exactly when he started working. I think it was sometime around September, October. And he caught COVID like during his probationary period, which was a nice welcome to the nursing community thing for him, I'm sure. But he said that some of the older like nurses that he's talked to have said that you will get sick like more often at first, but slowly it'll kind of get better for you, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure in a hospital setting you're gonna give the immune system a lot of practice on germs that need to be shot and expelled from the body. But that might actually be an interesting thing to watch too in the next year or so, to see if like the flu and all these other diseases that kind of went away this past year, like come back with a vengeance now that nobody cares anymore, or if they stay dormant or even don't ever come back again. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And come the fall, there's always a chance that there could be a resurgence of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And there's talk already of a booster shot, which has everybody all up in arms about this, And I want to be very clear. I'm not picking on people of faith. I am not picking on people of faith. But some of the more wild conspiracy theories has to do with the mark of the beast being the vaccine.
I love the nanobots one.
Yeah. That's the
government's going to track me with nanobots posted from my iPhone, the most tracked thing in the world. Oh God.
Yes, and to put a tracking device, if you've ever had your dog or your cat chipped, it's a bit of a procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to get chipped with a hypodermic needle, the hypodermic needle would be about the size of a roofing nail.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
You're getting a McDonald's straw shoved into your arm for that. I saw this one. It was on I think Insane People Facebook. It was a subreddit where this lady had what looked like a bicycle valve in her hand, and she was saying, like, the doctors just pulled this out of my daughter. This is the tracking chip that Bill Gates is trying to implement in you so that, he can track your thoughts and movements and make you perform terrorist attacks in Apple stores or whatever.
Yeah.
And
don't buy Apple.
The thing is, this valve that was supposedly freshly pulled out of her daughter's arm, A, looked like it had never been used. There was no blood or anything on it. And B, somebody actually posted, like, how would you get that in your arm with just like a needle? And she said, oh, well, the nanobots, when you inject them in your arm, reassemble into the one specific part of your arm that the government's using for tracking purposes. And I was like, you know what? You might be crazy, but that's pretty creative. I'll give you a couple points for that.
There's been some good ones. And some of the things about the end of days regarding this virus have been very good. The one that I like is that the aliens that we're going to be talking about here, the UFOs and all this, that this is predicted. Okay. And they're actually going to be demons disguised as aliens, and this is going to precede the Antichrist.
Well, what would be weirder, seeing a demon or an alien?
I don't. It'd be interesting either way.
The demons are secretly aliens. Look at that guy over there. He's got the red skin. He's actually from the planet Beetlejuice. He's come here to turn our frogs gay. It would be a hard choice to say which would be more significant, coming in contact with intelligent life or establishing a link between spirituality influencing the physical world. Those would both be very significant. My vote's for the supernatural.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would say that if you could design an experiment that was repeatable, had verifiable results through a third party, and had predictable results. This is what's going to happen. It happens just like you say. You hand it off to somebody and they approve it. If you could do that, illustrating that some spiritual force was influencing our life, the physical world, your name would probably dwarf Einstein. It would probably, those names, Newton, all those would be footnotes. Because that would be so significant. I don't know. And here again, I know a lot of times people of faith get mad at me, but the fact of the matter is my attitude is I'm not ruling anything out, just like with the UFOs that we're going to talk about here in a minute. When it comes to matters of spirituality, you go where the evidence leads you. And as it stands right now, we simply do not have. We have some intriguing information. We have some very compelling information about spirituality. I don't deny that. It's hard to explain, but so far, nothing conclusive. Nothing we can repeat, nothing we can predict. And the same goes for aliens. And we're going to get to that.
You know what I'd love to see?
Sure, go ahead.
The supernatural. I want to see one of these My Freedoms idiots like standing next to a fairy circle being like, oh, you know what? You can't tell me not to step in the fairy circle and then just get eaten by it. It would amuse me so much.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that's wishful thinking, but
Yeah.
I live in a town full of them. I'm allowed to make fun of them all I want.
Oh yeah. Have you encountered the anti-mask people or anything like that during this whole thing?
Yeah,
I
there
know
was a
because you
guy.
worked in the store. You worked in the store, right?
Yeah, I did. There was a guy who would come in and he would be extremely rude to the door greeters, who are secretly the security people who are watching you and making sure you're not stealing stuff. By the way, anytime you ever walk into a store and there's like door people greeting
Yeah.
you, they're security guards. They're not some nice
Okay.
old guy sitting there saying, "Hi, thanks for spending money in our capitalist paradise. I hope to see you again soon, sir." Well, I had this one guy who was really rude to the security guards every time he came in. He'd come in like every other day, and he of course didn't wear the mask. I think he tried to smack the mask out of one of the security guards' hands one time. They tried to hand it to him.
Oh, jeez.
This is right before I quit, so I had zero F's to give anymore.
Yeah.
And I flat out refused to serve him. He wanted chicken wings. I was like, no, you're gonna go put a mask on, or I'm not serving you. And he's like, I'm gonna go complain. I was like, you're gonna go complain about defying a mask mandate? Okay, dude. Whatever.
Yeah.
I think he did, but no one ever said anything to me because we had just had a guy come back from having COVID. And he was a big, strong, 22-year-old dude who, I mean, he was breathing like a cancer patient when he came back. I mean, it was bad. And it affected him for a while. I haven't been in contact. I don't know if he's still dealing with it, but I mean, he would get lightheaded and stuff like weeks after he had it.
Oh, sure.
It's like, dude, you're going to shove that in my face for $14 an hour and then, be a jackass about it when I tell you to, cover up your mouth. And so, I don't know. I had a few of them. Most of them weren't that combative. They were just kind of rude to you, but that guy was the winner. I think.
That's a shame that people have to be that way. And
I saw it a lot. It's part of the reason I quit, working in retail. I just couldn't handle all the disrespect anymore, man. Just coming from all sides, and
it's terrible. I suppose retail has always been that way, and dealing with the public has always been that way to a degree.
In my 12 years of doing it, it was way worse in the past 14 months.
I was going to say, yeah, I've noticed an escalation of it. People seem like they're entitled to be combative at the store. Like I joked about at the beginning, sarcastically, these badasses that seem to think that they're making some kind of a statement by forcing their way into a store without a mask on that is requiring it.
I wonder if one of these guys who was yelling at the mask or pretending he was a badass because he walked into a store without a mask. Check it out, I'm gonna see a disease. Like they get the little COVID tattoo, probably a yellow Star of David on their arm. Like I had the virus. A little video game badge of that. But yeah, I mean, people got a lot worse the past year. I don't know if it was the stress from people losing their jobs or I mean, you got the
that had of course, and in all honesty, that's been hard on everyone.
Right.
No one has had it easy in terms of stress. There have been some businesses actually excel in this time, and mostly online retailers. But just going out and living any type of a normal life, whether it's just walking into the store and buying a Coke or whatever, it's been very stressful for everyone. And I don't mean to minimize that, but not everybody is berating people who work in a store for minimum wage.
See, I worked the places that I've worked have always been in kind of lower type income areas where people are more likely to be Trump supporters and conspiracy theorists and all that. So it could be that my experience was kind of blown out by the audience that I had, I guess you could say. When I
sure.
But, I mean,
sure.
I've heard from other people I know though who have worked in more upscale areas saying that people were being jackasses there too for no reason.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So, I mean, that's just how it is. But as I said, I got tired of it, and that was kind of the last straw. Was just dealing with these people who don't care that the guy making $13 an hour behind the counter, whether he lives or dies, as long as you get your chip chop ham. I was done with it.
I totally agree with that.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens when all those moratoriums on evictions end at the end of this month too.
That's going to be that's going to be interesting, and also too, a lot of the unemployment benefits and everything are going to be pulled back because of the availability of jobs.
Oh, that's been another great thing I've been loving too, is like all these fast food restaurant owners and everything complaining about, oh, these people are getting paid more than I would pay them just to sit around. What are they, lazy? They don't want to work. It's like, dude, if you got $300 extra a week that you wouldn't make breaking your back at McDonald's and being screamed at by idiots about the, ice cream machine, yeah, you would not be at McDonald's, working to make barely survivable wages. And it's been fun to watch too, just like these restaurants who are going, oh, well, I guess we could have always paid you $18 an hour or whatever. We just didn't want to. And a lot of that's getting, revealed now too.
Yeah.
So watching the wages, but I'm also wondering too, if once they kick the unemployment benefits, the extra $300 a week or unemployment in general off, like, I'm sure these places now that are advertising, oh, we start at 17 an hour, are going to boot it right back down to 10 or 11 as soon as they realize that they're feeding off of people's desperation again.
I would hope not. As a business owner, and I've had employees in the past. I don't now, but I've always wanted to try to keep my good people. You
Right.
know, and if you have people that are coming to work and working hard for you, to me, that saves you a lot of money than retraining a new bunch every few months or every few weeks or whatever it is. And then I would never work in food service. That's one business I would never go near.
I will be homeless before I work in food service again.
Yeah.
Like, never again. Also, Billy, you have a heart and a soul. Like, you don't see people's numbers like a lot of these companies do as well.
True, sure.
I mean, it's funny too, because I've heard stories about some of these restaurants that are only paying like $9 an hour or whatever their employees, who, say employee gets into management, sees the numbers and sees that the place is making like $1 million in profits every year. Yeah, that's going to motivate you too to, get off your couch playing video games to go flip burgers, you rich idiots.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in employees, if they're working hard for you, and this model doesn't always work, but profit sharing, I believe, is a good thing.
Oh,
The harder the work, the more you make. I think that's a great motivation. You can't do that in every business, but
every company you see that's employee owned, you never see people complain about, oh, this place sucks. They never have high turnover. Like, look at Costco, or look at Land O'Lakes, I think, is another one. There's a couple. There's a bread company out there that does it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's funny because this past year has really exposed like how dark and how greedy a lot of people have become.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, absolutely.
My mom was saying the same thing, and she's one of the most like forgiving people on the planet. And she's even said, man, this past year has really shown a lot of people's true colors. And she's
yes,
not
it
wrong.
has. It has. Yeah. I'll say this one last thing. There's been a couple waitresses, and I know this is a theme that's online as well, but a couple waitresses who work for $2 and a penny or whatever it is, $2.13 an hour plus tips.
Yep.
They said they heard for years, well, from people who don't tip, well, if you don't like it, get a real job and all this. Well, we did. That's their answer. A lot of them have become, administrative people, have gone back to school, done this or that or the other thing, and they're not coming back to the waitress jobs.
Well, a lot of waitresses.
Their response is, yeah, we took your advice. So now you get your own food.
A lot of waitresses too. I mean, if you're actually good at being a waitress, I mean, you'll clear sometimes $30 to $50 an hour.
Yeah. Bartenders, it depends. It depends. I worked in the nightclub business for many, many years, and most of the time, the bartenders did better than anybody else in there, and that includes the entertainment in a lot of cases. If you work in a busy nightclub and you're an ace bartender, you can easily make $1,000 a night. Easily.
Yeah.
And the idea that these are tipped positions and they're always just getting by is not true at all. But here again, getting back to the mom and pop shops where you have somebody working all day and they come home with maybe, if they're lucky, $40 or $50 in their pocket. Right. That's a completely different situation.
Oh yeah.
That is a completely different situation. So anyway, to wrap up the COVID part of our discussion, I just hope that everybody is considerate of other people. That would be my message. If it really kills you to make somebody else feel better and give up one of your rights and wear a mask for a whole 3 minutes while you're in the store picking up your cigarettes or whatever it is that you're doing, please, there's people out there who we're not walking in their shoes. There's people out there who are on chemotherapy. There's people out there who have diabetes. There's people on there who have respiratory conditions. There's people on there who have heart conditions, and even a cold, flu, a mild case of the flu could kill them. And they're now in a situation where they haven't been for almost the last 2 years, where you got people all around them talking, spitting, coughing, hacking, sneezing, and running their mouth, talking real loud. And that is very disturbing for a lot of people. And I just be considerate that the world isn't just as you experience it. There's other people out there who are very fragile, both emotionally and physically. And it doesn't hurt to be somewhat considerate. That would be my closing point on the COVID thing.
It really is kind of shocking how many people out there don't realize the world doesn't revolve around them,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is so true. Moving on to the UFO thing. This is interesting. I mentioned before which would be more significant. Actually, finding life of any kind, even if it's just microbial, would be very significant, because if we could examine that and examine its DNA structure and all these other things, if we found out that that structure is similar to what we have here, we could conclude that life has a common origin in space. And by the same token, if it is completely different, if it is something that is completely foreign from anything we have ever found on Earth, that would mean that life can begin in any number of different situations, in any number of different combinations, which is also very significant. So, I'm very excited, not so much because of the UFO situation that's going on right now. There's a lot to be determined there, and we'll get to that. But in the context of science, finding any type of life out there would be very significant just in those terms alone. Okay. And intelligent life, and I can't imagine what we would find or how we would communicate with it. But if that was possible, if that turns out to be the case, finding out what their life origins and what the explanation is for their existence, to me, would be very fascinating. Have you ever considered that or talked about it at all?
Well, I mean, I've read a lot of science fiction in my day, and a book I read a long time ago as a series had different elemental, I guess you would call them life forms. And the book started out with us turning Jupiter into a star using some new technology, but wiping out this alien species that we didn't know had been dormant there, that lived off of the gases in Jupiter, therefore sparking a war where Earth basically gets obliterated. And then there were other life forms, these sentient trees that could communicate using quantum physics, stuff like that. It's an interesting series. Kevin J. Anderson wrote it. But it would be confirmation that building blocks of life do, such as amino acids and all that, do occur naturally and are able to assemble themselves. Then why wouldn't life be able, at least the microbial form, be able to exist pretty much anywhere?
Sure.
I mean, they're saying that it's possible that there could be microbes and other small forms of life on Venus, up in the clouds, where it isn't 10,000 degrees. It's just we haven't explored or discovered it yet.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned before that life found in the depths of the ocean at hydrothermal vents. There's life down there that, in essence, is very alien to us. It can live in very high pressure, toxic situations. There's heavy metals in the water, very high temperatures, boiling hot water, very toxic gases, and life is down there.
There's some life forms that can live in hydrocarbons, like petroleum, stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
Life is harder than we think. I mean, look at tardigrades. I mean, those things can live out in zero gravity indefinitely and then be revived later on.
And
they're pretty hard.
It's really amazing.
Well. Yeah, very.
It's really amazing. If you've been not paying attention to this, there's been any number of UFO, and we call them unidentified flying objects. Now, the official term is unidentified aerial phenomenon. I'd like to know who came up with that one. But anyway, the Pentagon is, and we were kind of anticipating that today because there was a chance that some of that stuff was going to come out today. I don't have any information on that at this time. If they did, it's something that I got past me, but we're anticipating that. I would imagine it's going to be more of the same, which is going to be, videos and other types of information that show these objects that cannot be explained. I mentioned the 60 Minutes program, and I don't know that anybody came out and said that these were from outer space, that these were intelligently driven from somewhere else in this world. That's certainly a possibility. And here again, when I say I'm a skeptic, I just simply mean I wait for information. I just don't make that jump because it fits my beliefs or it sparks my imagination or whatever. But all of these pilots these professional fighter pilots, which you would certainly want to respect in terms of what they're observing and what they know is possible in terms of flight, are all pretty much unanimous that these things are flying in a way that is not understood. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it has a supernatural origin. One of the pilots, I believe, on the 60 Minutes program mentioned that he believed it's in the realm of possibility that these are foreign operated right here on Earth, some intelligence gathering drones or something. That would be his suspicion, but he can't prove that. He can't explain how they're flying. Me personally, I would have to say that if I had to guess, I would have to say that these are man-made. There's a lot of people don't really consider the fact that an airplane doesn't just fight the force of gravity. It uses the force of gravity to fly. And that sounds counterintuitive because you think they're going to crash. And yes, gravity is pulling the plane down, but that force is also used as a way to guide the plane, as a way to bring it up, bring it down. A plane works both with and against the forces of gravity to fly. And just because somebody somewhere may have come up with a design that works with the gravity more with the force of gravity as opposed to against it, that's not that out of the realm of possibility for me. I believe that there could be some anti-gravity technology out there. And I would not say that that's beyond what we know. I wouldn't go that step. There's been a number of times that we have said that throughout human history, and somebody has come up with it. They said the same thing about nuclear back in the day. And, that's obviously getting to the point now where almost anybody can get their hands on it, which is scary. But I do believe that this technology can be created in terms of being something that's made by human beings.
Well, one thing I've read before too is that the military and the industrial experimental types or whatever who do aircrafts are generally like 20 years ahead of what the general public has seen released to them as well. So I mean, they could be doing all kinds of stuff that we wouldn't even kind of imagine, that we won't even see for another 20, 30 years when they kind of let it go. Another thing too is that like when you see a large cluster of UFO sightings, a lot of times, if you pay attention to where they happen, a lot of times they're right outside of like an Air Force base or some other experimental airfield, which people see a lot of weird stuff on Lake Erie. I'm from Lake Erie, like the coastline. Right. And there's an Air Force base in Toledo that does a lot of experimental stuff. So I've seen weird stuff in the sky and thought, that's probably something the military is doing. Yeah. One of my favorite theories is that it's actually interdimensional beings or interdimensional humans who like found a way to detach from the 3D world that we live in and can kind of like bust back and forth. I like that one. Another one of my favorites is there's actually aliens already here on Earth. They just live in the deep ocean and launch their ships because we haven't explored 90% of it, so we've never found them. So it's kind of like that one.
There's a lot of people that believe that human life has an alien origin. That's not uncommon. And here again, I don't believe there's any proof of that, but I
No.
wouldn't discount it necessarily. And I wouldn't discount the idea that these could have some sort of an alien origin. I here again, I'm not going to discount that. I would have to say, if I had to bet, I would say no, but I'm not saying it's impossible. And if the evidence starts to show that, I'm all for it. I let's go where the evidence leads us.
I mean, all kinds of crazy things happen, you know. And
Yeah.
look at that Keeping Up with the Kardashians show. That's in its 20th season. People still watch the Kardashians. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you would ask me 10 years ago, I would have said that's impossible. You're crazy. So who knows about aliens, man? It makes
Yes,
sense.
that's exactly true. I should probably preface this by saying that just because something is logical doesn't mean that it's any more true than something that is illogical. There's a lot of
Right.
things that are illogical that are true. But logically speaking, I find it hard to believe that, you know, if you listen to some of the conspiracy theories, they don't want their presence to be known. The aliens don't want their presence to be known. Well, if that's the case and are that advanced, why are we seeing these things at all?
It's the
I can't.
hillbilly aliens.
Yeah,
Those are the ones that abduct people out in farm fields. They're like, hey, we just caught y'all another human. We can go ahead and tag him. And, you know,
yeah,
they're the aliens that like annoy everybody else in the known galaxy, you know.
yeah. And the other thing that's true, and the other thing is that well, if they're trying to contact us, but our government doesn't want us to know, what on the world is stopping them? I mean, they could land on the 50-yard line during halftime at the Super Bowl, where you have all the best cameras in the world in one place.
Yeah. Can also hijack like pretty much any like streaming feed. Like they could easily go on YouTube and just put up videos after videos of themselves up there.
Yeah.
And then you know what's funny is people would probably be racist toward the aliens too.
Oh, they probably would. Yeah, they're not my neighborhood. And the other thing is that the other thing
Not
is
my planet.
yeah, not my planet. The other thing is that that all the governments around the world, they all know about these, but they're keeping. And I just find it odd that there's so many governments out there, so many countries that want to kill each other. You know, there's countries that want other countries to fall into the sea. Their own words. That's what
And
they want to
nobody's
happen.
ever exploited alien technology.
But nobody has
nobody's
ever- no-
said
no-
a thing.
Nobody's
Okay.
ever given it up. Nobody's ever given it up. So
That's the way to
yeah.
debunk like most every big conspiracy right there. You mean there are thousands of people in on this and no one got, felt guilty
Yeah.
and talked. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's human nature to gossip and brag about the stuff you're involved with, you idiots.
Yes. Oh, that is so true. And well, here again, getting back to the logical side of things, I have found that a lot of these UFO sightings are very similar to people that have seen ghosts or had some sort. It's always at a time of night when your senses are impaired, when you're about to go to sleep, when whatever.
Sleep paralysis.
Yes, and like nobody ever. Abraham Lincoln's walking around the hallways of the White House in the middle of the night. He's never out on Daytona Beach in broad sunlight for some reason.
If you were a ghost and you could go anywhere, why would you creep around in an attic of a 120-year-old building and spy on some grandma in a shower? Come on, dude.
Yeah. I'd be checking out.
Like, are you bound to the place, or like I'd be flying around the world, hang out in Milan like 1 second, and then fly and I don't know, watch Donald Trump throw a golf ball and say that he hit it there, and like the next moment, just enjoy life, traveling all around, not have to pay for a plane ticket. But no, haunt an attic. Okay.
Exactly. And here again, I want to be clear. This is not, if you have experienced some sort of a ghost, if you have experienced some sort of a UFO, all I'm saying is that for me, I never challenge someone's personal experience because it may very well be true. And the reality is that I had a really weird experience having a vision of my grandfather one time. And I'm aware that it could have been him. It also could have been my imagination. It also could have been recalling childhood memories. I could go on down the line. I'm pretty objective in these things. It could be a lot of things. And people who have had UFO sightings, they swear by them. And I'm not for a moment saying that they're lying. Something might very well have happened, and it might have involved aliens. It might very well have.
As I said, I've seen weird stuff in the sky growing up off of Lake Erie. One thing that I saw one time, I was walking home from a friend's house, and there was one of those V-shaped things that people talk about with like the 5 lights, kind of like a bunch of ducks in a V, except and moving really slowly and silently, and you couldn't really tell how far away it was because of the way
Yeah.
that it kind of blended in with the sky. But as I said, I kind of chalked it up to it's probably a military aircraft or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't end up on a ship getting probed or anything, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming I'm not keeping secrets or anything. So
yeah, well, what I was saying is that it might very well have been real, and might not just real to you, but it might very well have been real. But we just have not gotten to the point where we can repeat it. We just have not gotten to the point where we can analyze it, and until we do, making a blanket statement based upon anyone's individual experience that something is valid, it's just not the way to do good science. And like I said, there's some compelling evidence out there. I'm very intrigued by after-death experiences. I've talked to some hospice nurses that have some very spooky stories, and a lot of them are very consistent. So these are all very compelling things that I find very intriguing about spirituality. It's hard to put these things aside or dismiss them. I am not doing that. But we have to be able to tie the knot. We have to be able to say, this is the connection. This is how we get there. And it's been elusive. And the same thing is true with the aliens. There's a lot of compelling stuff out there. There's a lot of compelling stuff that would lead me to believe there's more to this world than what we know. And I believe that there is. But to say that this has happened, that aliens have come, we just have not been able to tie that knot. And I'm really anxious to get this more information and find out where it leads. But as it stands right now, it's impressive, it's compelling, but that's as far as I am willing to go with it until we get more information. Do you have any wrap up comments about some of the things we talked about in regard to this?
Well, I mean, if aliens did come down and weren't hostile, it would be interesting to see how humanity reacted to it. And,
Yeah.
So I'm sure there would be people out there who would invent new racial slurs for them. I'm sure that would happen because it's the internet. Everything happens like that.
Yeah.
Or how the aliens would kind of perceive our society. I mean, it's very possible that they could come from, another warlike type planet where, resources are fought over, like, what we're seeing with Israel and Gaza right now.
Oh, sure.
Or they could, have some kind of utopian Star Trek thing. I mean, there's just millions of possibilities.
You don't know, and you don't know by what criteria. I mean, I would say that most people would say that humans are going to be recognized as the most intelligent being, but that's because we're humans. We're a little biased.
Yeah.
It depends on what criteria.
You don't see many people walking around saying, oh, no, actually, I am the dumbest person on this planet. I'm proud of it.
Yeah. It could be that an alien life form would consider a cat. A cat, for example, can live on its own shortly after birth, much quicker than a human being can. A cat can adapt to its natural habitat for survival much quicker than a human being can. So the criteria that we're going by may not be what just because we have iPhones doesn't really mean that much in a cosmic sense.
Well, if you want to go further with that too, I mean, imagine you were an alien looking down on like two life forms. One that was had another one following it around, picking up its poop, like petting it and giving it food and water, and buying it like a $20,000 dog house with a heated floor, which is a thing. I mean, they would assume that the dog was in charge, not the humans. We're the servants, and same with like cats. You're scooping out the litter box, feeding them, begging or bending their every whim so they don't puke on the carpet.
Yeah, that's.
If I were an alien,
that's all true. I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
I'd be like, we should probably get the little microphone and stick in front of the furry one. See what he has to say.
Yeah. They wouldn't be interested in the Billy D's podcast. They'd be interested in the Dexter podcast. That's
exactly.
So interesting points of view here, different ways of considering things. Jack, it's always great to have you on. We always have a fun time.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine if Dexter had a podcast, by the way?
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, it'd be number one. He already is more.
Here's what my idiot owner did today. He bought me the feather toy. I wanted the shoestring. God, what an idiot.
Yeah, that's so true because I get more comments about Dexter than I do. When I go somewhere and somebody meets me for the first time, like, oh yeah, I know you're the guy that does, and you're the guy who has that cat.
You're the orange cat guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's funny.
I want to meet
All right.
Dexter someday. Come on now.
If you've never listened to our program
Can
before,
I get his autograph?
yeah, absolutely. You can get his paw print, custom made. I should sell those. I should put those. I should create a Twitter account for Dexter and have little paw prints from Dexter.
Dude, you make a mint.
Oh yeah,
Quit your
it'd be
job,
great.
man.
So anyway, if you're new to the program, we talk about all kinds of things here. We often have discussions. Jack is a periodic co-host. We do interviews. We got some great author podcasts coming up. Some great interviews with some great authors who got some books out. We're doing a lot with HO Press, Shorehouse Books, and some great author interviews are coming up in the next few weeks. And also some commentaries are lined up. And I do take topic suggestions, and those are more structured podcasts. They're more like, how to say, editorial type podcasts. So we have a little variety of things. We have some fun things. We have some lighthearted stuff. And we're not here to offend anybody. We're here to throw out some ideas and just have fun with the audience. And we hope that's how you took our discussion today. Any closing words from you, Jack?
No, not really. I have actually started paying attention to my Twitter account. So if you have any comments or want to tell me I'm an idiot or whatever, it's at Jack Casey 8542.
Yeah.
I'm working on an Instagram right now too for photography that I've been doing since I've had a lot of free time now, and I've been out and about a lot more. It'll probably be at the same name. I don't know. Next time I'm on, I'll probably announce that. I'm just kind of setting it up and picking out what I want to put on it right now. So
there's a big community for that on Twitter. So I would encourage you to do that on Twitter as well. I'm not sure what the hashtags are appropriate for photography, but you could probably research that in no time at all.
I've just been putting stuff like hashtag nature photography or
Yeah,
hashtag cats or whatever. I mean, I figure once I figure out the real keywords, it will catch on more. But for right now, I'm just having fun with it.
Exactly. Sure.
That's all anybody should ever do.
Right. All right. Well, great show tonight. We had some fun talking to you. And
yeah, man, good times.
We can't always respond, like I said, when we're live, but I generally go back through the feeds and remarks that require a response. I try to. We don't engage negativity here. Never do, one way or the other. Don't engage it. We ignore it. Somebody says you're a blankety blank, that's fine, but that's where it ends. We don't engage that. But anybody who has some comments, topic suggestions, comments about today's program, feel free to tweet me. Real easy to find on Twitter at Billy D's. You can find the Billy D's podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are found: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, on down the line. And we do have video now. A lot of times I do dedicated audio, especially the more serious commentaries are still dedicated audio. I'm very much a voice person for that. I believe in that communication type as an art form. But we do a lot of video now, and all of our content is posted one way or the other on YouTube and Facebook. So a lot of times people want to just check out the guests. We have them there. Not all guests want to go on video, but when we get somebody who wants to appear, we try to put them in those areas as well. All right, Jack, thank you very much for being here, man. And we'll have you on again sometime real soon.
Of course.
And for me and the podcast, thank you very much for listening. And we will be back next week.
See ya.